Hello and hello. Thank you for joining me. How you guys doing? It's Wednesday. Switzerland Day. Still working on the title. Anyway, I'm going to react to this video. How Switzerland became insanely rich without any resources. Sounds fascinating. Casual economics. Check them out. Link down below. Let's frickin' go. Let's go.
Switzerland, a land known for its mountains, banks, and chocolate, and also being one of the richest countries in the world. But it really
and it's very expensive to live there, isn't it?
Shouldn't be. Switzerland is a landlocked country with no natural resources, no unifying language, and borders that make no geographical sense. And for centuries it was surrounded by powerful empires looking to conquer it. This is the story of how Switzerland defied the odds to become one of the richest countries in the world when it really should not exist. It all began...
I actually am fascinated to hear this.
700 years ago in 1291, three men met peacefully in a meadow to form an alliance. They made a promise to help each other through good times and bad. A bit unusual for the time, there was no bloodshed, beheadings, or attacks. This alliance would become known as the birth of Switzerland. 24 years later in 1350...
I already did the whole history thing, so yeah, there you go.
This Swiss alliance would fight its first major battle together in the Battle of Morgarten. Taking on the well-equipped and trained Austrian army that was invading the Swiss territory of Schwyz, this was really a David and Goliath battle. Many Swiss farmers had never fought before, and the Swiss had no real chance. As the story goes, the Schwyz people were warned by their neighbors of the Austrians' coming invasion, and quickly sent their men with the support of 600 other men from the other two factions of...
So it was like Paul Revere here in America. The British are coming, the British are coming. That's a famous, thing.
The alliance to head to Sattel and try to intercept the enemy. There, along a small path in between two lakes, the Swiss people set a roadblock and prepared to ambush the Austrian army. This battle saw 1,500 Austrians killed in an ambush by the Swiss alliance put together by a militia of herdsmen and farmers. Unfamiliar with the customs between knights, the Swiss Confederates continued attacking the retreating troops, with some even choosing to jump in the lake rather than face the brutality of the Swiss. It was a resounding victory for the Swiss Confederation and led to a steady expansion of the Swiss alliance. The city of Lucerne decided
so they don't mess around.
To join the alliance, and soon after, Zurich joined. The Swiss Confederation was growing into a sizable amount of territory. For the next few centuries, these Swiss cities were bound together by alliances just like many Italian city-states. This also explains why Switzerland has no one big capital like Paris or London, but a group of more or less equal cities. In the early 1500s...
I didn't realize that. I mean, I think I only know Zurich and Geneva. Because of the Geneva Conventions. I mean, this is kind of embarrassing, but like, I'm just assuming that Zurich is the capital. Sorry. Like, I don't know for sure. Oh, it's not. Well, it says Bern is the de facto capital, so there is no actual capital. Did he say that?
The Swiss Confederation was growing in size, defeating the Austrians, crushing the Burgundians, and earning a reputation of being nearly undefeatable. 25,000 Swiss troops began descending on northern Italy, capturing town after town, and even capturing the city of Milan from the French.
Damn.
They looked unstoppable. However, things would soon take a sudden turn. In 1515, the French hit back...
It's crazy how back in this era, it was like the era of just like, the might is right, you know what I mean? You could just take territory, and if you had the power to do so, it was yours.
Battling the Swiss in Marignano, a small village in northern Italy. The Swiss troops were crushed. At this point, you would think the Swiss would continue the fight or plan for revenge, but they did something surprising. They decided to just give up and make peace with the French, giving them back the city of Milan. They didn't know it at the time, but this loss to the
they do have hearts.
French and end to the fighting marked the beginning of Swiss neutrality as we know it today. Although the Swiss were done fighting as a country, they were still notoriously well known as having some of the strongest, most relentless fighters in Europe. And this is when the Switzerland Confederation saw a huge opportunity. Why fight wars of its own when it can hire out its men to other armies and make money doing it?
What? That's crazy. That is not what I thought, where I thought that was going. I thought it was just going to be like, oh, this gave them a strong deterrence and let them, foster a lot of peace. And so they could, focus on building infrastructure.
Manpower was one of Switzerland's earliest exports, where Swiss soldiers were bought and sold to other armies. Unlike other mercenary troops, hiring Swiss mercenaries meant you were getting not just a few stray troops, but an entire battalion of troops and officers working together as a battle-tested unit. Swiss mercenaries would go on to fight for nearly every European power, and in some cases...
That is so insane for me to even try to fathom. Just going and risking your life for some other country for just to be paid. That's your job? Dude, that's brutal.
They even fought each other when rented out by opposing sides. Swiss mercenary
and I know people still do this, which is insane.
Armies were eventually abolished in the mid-19th century, except for the Pope's Swiss Guard, which continues to live on today. Switzerland would keep its neutrality in most conflicts up until Napoleon and the French invaded in 1798 and wiped out the old Confederation of 13 mini-states. Up until this point, Switzerland has been surrounded by more powerful countries for hundreds of years and only conquered once. Cut off by the mountains, Switzerland had been like an island for most of history, not having to deal with ongoing wars in Europe or new empires rising to power.
Oh, wow.
This all changed with Napoleon.
I like that description. It's like an island,
The first thing he did was create...
That's insane.
The Helvetic Republic, a unary state with a central government, and had the creation of the Swiss national flag, which we still see today. Just kidding. This experiment didn't last long, collapsing after 5 years and having Napoleon turn it back into a new and improved version of the old Confederation. In 1815, after the downfall of Napoleon, the Congress of Vienna fully re-established Switzerland's independence, and the European powers agreed to permanently recognize Swiss neutrality. This guaranteed neutrality from any war or conflicts led to a huge influx of money into Swiss banks from wealthy people across Europe.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah. And I know, Swiss bank accounts, that's a thing. But it makes a lot of sense that it's because, and it originated because of its neutrality, It's just like, by definition, the most safe place to keep your money. Kind of. The most neutral place to keep it.
They were looking for a safe place to store their money if their own country went into war, and Switzerland offered that. Another major benefit was that 100 years earlier, Switzerland had created a bank secrecy law, making it illegal to disclose any personal information of anyone using a Swiss bank account. While the rest of Europe was busy carving
out... It's so interesting how, just a couple of key policies just foster this, influx of capital. I just think that's interesting.
Out their empires with colonization and fighting conflicts, Switzerland was focused on using neutrality to offer protections to the wealthy and grow its arms in industry and banking. The Swiss also made many powerful economic moves. They abolished internal tariffs, created a single currency, and gave citizens the freedom to move to any part of the country, all of which would happen a century
I see Federer back there.
later in the rest of Europe. Switzerland was ahead of their times. Before the Swiss franc, the money market was a mess in Switzerland. With over 860 different types of coins being in circulation, creating a single currency helped connect the country. At this time, General Dufour realized there was a lack of national cohesion under the Swiss army and the need for a unifying flag.
That is also just so... I don't want to just brush over that, because I saw that picture of Federer and it distracted me for a second. He's the freaking GOAT, Okay, I don't know. I mean, Djokovic's also... I love Nadal, I'm a lefty, so I love Nadal. Anyway, it's just interesting to me to think about, even this 860 different coins, what a horrible fragmentation of money, very difficult to do trade, adds a lot of friction in a transaction, and trying to redeem it in whatever currency you want. You might have to travel far and wide to do that. Terrible.
currency helped connect the country. At this time, General Dufour realized there was a lack of national cohesion under the Swiss army and the need for a unifying flag. This led to the Swiss flag we know of today, which was designed...
It would also make counterfeiting really easy. And how would you even trust? Like, that's another major aspect of it, is it's like, obviously you're not going to memorize the 860 different coins. So you're basically just taking the dude's word for it, that it's not a counterfeit coin.
Unifying flag. This led to the Swiss flag we know of today, which was designed to be square like past cantonal flags before it. Switzerland is only one of 2 countries with a square flag, with the other...
It's still square?
...being Vatican City, protected by the Swiss Guard.
No way.
Coincidence? I think not. After a...
I don't believe you. I mean, I've definitely seen the Switzerland flag, like, as a rectangle. Is the Swiss flag square? Square or rectangle? This is a commonly searched question, guys. It is square. So, like, the fact that people just fly it as a rectangle... I mean, that's a rectangle, right? Now I'm starting to question my own eyes. It's probably just out of, you know, convenience or, like, fitting in with other flags, you know. But it's meant to be square. That is so cool. It's kind of funny that flags are rectangle anyway. Somehow it feels like it's right, it's correct. But, like, why not square?
Small civil war, the Switzerland Federation was founded in 1848. Unlike any other country, Switzerland used a system known as direct democracy, where the people would vote directly on policies.
Yeah, famously.
Instead of being voted by elected officials. This system has 2 effects. The first is that Swiss taxes are much lower compared to other countries because the public get to review and vote on whether a government expenditure gets approved. The second effect is that any large public policy...
they should also not need to pay very many politicians, huh? They're doing the job.
Government expenditure gets approved. The second effect is that any large public policy decisions take much longer to get put into law, needing to win the approval of the public through a referendum. For instance, women wouldn't get the right to vote until 1971, much later compared to other countries.
Right, I was just going to say, like, this can be good and bad, but in terms of, like, stability and predictability, this is very good, you know what I mean? And that's what investors love, obviously, and that's where you want to store your money. Somewhere where you know the rules can't just change overnight. You know that. You know, in a different country with a dictator, you know, take the exact opposite, where all the power is totally centralized. Rules can change like that. The dude could have a bad dream and wake up and decide that the money, you know, is no longer backed by gold. And then you're screwed. But if it's, you know, a system like this where it's inherently is slow and has friction. But the flip side is that, you know, women, you know, bad laws take a long time to get repealed and good laws take a long time to pass. So that's unfortunate, but, you know, it is what it is.
Right to vote until 1971, much later compared to other countries.
Wait, did he just say 1971?
Get the right to vote until 1971.
Wow.
Much later compared to other countries.
That was like last
year. This
year.
system of direct democracy works in Switzerland's favor, as it has helped ensure the political stability needed to support banking secrecy. Another way Swiss banking makes sense is that the Swiss Alps provide a natural environment for creating hidden underground vaults to store.
So it kind of is a natural resource. It's just in the most, like, a very clever use of your natural resource. I would never have thought of that. I mean, the mountains so far have come into play twice. First, they act as a literal barrier from the outside world, screwing with you, and then now they make a great bank vault. It's so interesting.
Or gold, diamonds, and other precious assets for the rich. In the 1910s, with the start of World War I, Swiss bankers traveled to France to advertise Swiss banking secrecy. Switzerland offered numbered bank accounts, where the person's name was replaced with a multi-digit number, known only to the client, and select private banks. As many...
I freaking love that. That is so cool. I mean, obviously, This is the thing. Anytime anyone talks about privacy, it's like, well, yeah, it could be used for nefarious activity, whatever. You know what I mean? But I just love privacy as a value, as like a fundamental value. You know what I think? I think we're all entitled to it as humans. So I think that's really cool.
European powers increased taxes to finance the war effort. Switzerland saw a rapid influx of money from wealthy Europeans aiming to shelter their money. And since Switzerland was split into regions that spoke different languages, the French could bank in Geneva, the Germans in Zurich, and the Italians in Lugano.
Oh, so the fragmentation of language was actually like kind of a benefit?
Moving into World War II, Switzerland stayed neutral.
This is freaking amazing, man.
But in many ways, its economy served
There's that amazing video. Check out Casual Economics.
the Axis powers, storing gold that Germany had stolen, and lending money to both Germany and Italy to support their aggressive military campaign. The Swiss bank UBS even maintained an account for Hitler, estimated at 1.1 billion Reichsmark. At the same time, Swiss banks also maintained accounts for hundreds of German Jewish business people and households looking for a safe...
See, isn't that amazing? I mean, that is truly neutral. You know what I mean? That's really testing the neutrality of the system. And that is a proof that it is. And you know what I mean? And it's so interesting how like that protocol designed, you know, by this country, but and then underpinned by direct democracy, so it cannot change. It's kind of solidified. It acts almost like a natural, you know, like natural law, like unbreakable law. You know what I mean? It's like water flowing down a river, you know, in a direction. Am I making... I don't think I'm officially not making any sense. But if you were along with me on that wavelength, thank you. Shout out to you. Let's continue.
Storage place from the Axis powers. Because of this, in 1934, Switzerland decided to further boost their enforcement of banking secrecy by making it a federal offense to violate any banking secrecy rules. In 1940, when Germany created plans for an invasion of Switzerland, Swiss banks began transporting Jewish assets to underground military bunkers in the mountains for protection. If faced with a German invasion, which many people thought was inevitable, the Swiss would be able to retreat into the mountains and fight prolonged guerrilla warfare. However, given Switzerland lacked any natural resources and would be extremely difficult to invade with the mountainous terrain,
So its lack of natural resources actually, ironically, becomes a benefit. Because why do you want to invade Switzerland?
Germany ultimately decided not to, and the invasion never...
It's like it's the perfect natural bank vault. And then you put the protocol that the people did on top of it, and it becomes just a perfect natural bank vault. This explains a lot to me, and it's really, really fascinating.
happened. Switzerland would continue its diplomatic neutrality until the end of the war. As strange as it sounds, Switzerland tends to shine best when other countries go to war. Wealthy people flee to Switzerland for safety, or choose to move their assets there.
Well, that's when a bank vault becomes most valuable, right? When your house is burning down is when the bank is when the not even necessarily bank vault, but a safe. That's what I'm trying to say. Like the safe in your house becomes the most valuable asset to you when your house is burning down.
Avoid being heavily taxed when war efforts ramp up. Having not been involved in either world wars, Switzerland's cities had benefited greatly from not being destroyed compared to the rest of Europe. It became clear to the rest of the world that Switzerland could be a lifeboat to shelter in a storm. After World War II, it was discovered that the Axis powers assets had used Switzerland to store many stolen assets during the wars.
Oh, wow.
There were many calls for the removal of bank secrecy by the UK and France, which were
See, that's where it becomes so difficult to retain this policy, you know what I mean? But the policy is vital. You know what I mean? It's an asset. You know, this is not... It's so interesting to me that I'm barely even making sense, but it's just like, you know, for the... Yes, you have to take the good and the bad. You cannot have the good without the bad. And there's bad and good. I don't know what to tell you. You got to weigh it against each other. And you do have to weigh it, you know, but in this instance, it seems like the good outweighs the bad to me. Very much so. Very much so. You know, because the flip side would have been if Hitler could have been the one demanding, you know, that the bank secrecy be removed so that he could steal the Jewish assets. Obviously. You know what I mean? So the secrecy needs to remain intact. And apparently the Swiss people saw it that way.
Successful. During the 20th century, there would also be the formation United Nations, a global organization aimed at bringing countries together to solve conflicts and prevent another world war from happening. Bringing countries together for peace and resolution. The EU also formed in
Now it's being undermined by President Donald Trump with the Board of Peace.
1993 to bring economic and political unification across Europe.
Sorry.
You would think Switzerland would be all for this and join both right away, right? Wrong. If there's one thing that the Swiss hate, it's being controlled or needing approval from outside parties.
I freaking, you know what I mean? I never even knew how much I love Switzerland. I love it.
This is why Switzerland chose not to join the EU and didn't.
It's just a cool thing. And I'm not like anti-EU or UN or anything. But I just love that they have a certain place in this world and they're a very valuable asset to this world with certain properties, and they don't compromise on it.
Joined the UN until 2002, even though it was headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. Banking has continued to be a dominant industry in Switzerland.
But that goes to show you, you know, that's the asset that they provide. You know, even if we're not going to join, y'all know we're the best venue for it.
With total banking assets,
and I heard they did join the UN,
amounting to over $3 trillion, more than the Swiss GDP. Swiss banks currently manage $2.4 trillion worth of assets, more than any other country in the world, with most of the wealth originating from France, Germany, and Saudi Arabia. While Switzerland has some measures in place to ensure the legitimacy of how the assets were earned, there has still been a fair number of controversies. One of the reasons the world's rich prefer Swiss banks is their reputation for being guarantors of stability. In comparison, British and American banks have shifted to be more focused on making money and taking risk than keeping their customers' funds stable. While this helps bring more wealth to the bankers and the economy, it can lead to bank runs and other meltdowns. This is why billionaires choose to bank in Switzerland, even when Swiss banks have negative interest rates, where you have to pay interest on your money to keep it stored in a Swiss bank account. There is trust in Swiss banks that cannot be matched by other banks in the US or other parts of the world.
And obviously it's a very rare event for negative interest rates.
Swiss banks that cannot be matched by other banks in the US or other parts of the world. Alongside banking, Switzerland has a long tradition in high-quality specialized manufacturing in things like watches, optics, chemicals, and pharmaceuticals.
Right, this is only one aspect. You know what I mean? We're focusing on the banking aspect, but there's more to it.
For food,
why Switzerland is so rich.
Also are globally recognized for having some of the best cheeses and chocolate in the world.
Swiss cheese, dude. When's the last time I had Swiss cheese? I mean, it's very prevalent here in America. Very prevalent. Swiss cheese everywhere. It's got a unique flavor. I haven't had it in like 10 years. I'm going to have to try it again.
And as for inventiveness, there are many things you probably didn't know were Swiss, including aluminum foil,
You know what I need to react to? I'm writing this down. Why does Swiss cheese have holes? It's probably the dumbest, like, Switzerland-related thing I could react to, but you know what I mean? I want to know. Why does Swiss cheese have holes? I'm going to have to find that out.
Velcro, and the electric toothbrush. Switzerland also has an integrated network of trains helping to drive the Swiss economy by transporting tourists to the mountains, commuters into the cities, and cargo across Europe. These Swiss trains live up to a reputation of being clean, comfortable, expensive, and almost always on time. In modern days,
I like how those are all good things except expensive.
Switzerland has one of the highest qualities of living, a low crime rate, low unemployment, and attracts over 4 million tourists each
great. How much is the average house?
year with its natural beauty. Where many great empires and republics have risen and fallen, Switzerland has survived against all odds. With limited natural resources,
look at that.
Switzerland has used its innovativeness, neutrality, and trust to rise into one of Europe's most wealthy nations. Switzerland can be both a beautiful retreat from the outside world and a lifeboat to shelter in a storm. Every year, a national survey asks Swiss people what they associate with their country.
Oh.
And every year the same two responses come up the most.
What is it?
Peace and neutrality.
Wow. That is so cool. That is so cool. I just gained a huge amount of respect for Switzerland. I never fully appreciated all of those incredible aspects of it. And I just think that's really cool. That's really cool history. All right. Did I mention that I think that's cool? Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow.